The scorching sun beat down on the Amazon jungle, casting a hazy glow over the dense vegetation. Indiana Jones, adventurer and archaeologist, stood at the edge of the jungle, surveying the vast expanse before him. His leather jacket was stained with sweat, and his fedora sat low on his brow, shielding his eyes from the sun. Indiana had heard rumors of a lost temple deep in the jungle, said to be filled with untold riches. The temple was said to be the final resting place of a powerful civilization, long since forgotten. The rumors were too intriguing for Indiana to ignore, and he had set out to find the temple and claim the treasure for himself. As he made his way deeper into the jungle, Indiana felt a sense of excitement and adventure that he had not felt in years. He was determined to find the temple and unlock its secrets, but he knew that the journey would not be easy. The jungle was treacherous, filled with deadly animals and hidden dangers, but Indiana was not one to back down from a challenge. He had been on countless adventures before, and he was not afraid of what the jungle might hold. He was driven by his passion for adventure and his love of history, and he was confident that he could find the temple and claim the treasure before anyone else did. However, Indiana was not the only one interested in the temple. Carlos, a ruthless and cunning treasure hunter, was also on the trail. He had heard the same rumors as Indiana and was determined to get his hands on the treasure before anyone else. Carlos was a dangerous opponent, and Indiana knew that he would have to be careful if he wanted to reach the temple before Carlos did. As Indiana made his way further into the jungle, he felt his heart beat faster with each step. The quest had begun, and he was eager to see what lay ahead. The temple was out there, waiting for him to uncover its secrets. The lost temple of gold was calling to him, and Indiana was determined to answer. The jungle was alive with the sounds of Indiana Jones' footsteps as he pushed on through the thick undergrowth. He was on the brink of discovering the lost temple, and he could feel it, but he wasn't alone. Carlos, the cunning treasure hunter, was hot on his heels, determined to reach the temple before Indiana did. The race was on, and the stakes were high. The jungle was treacherous, and Indiana had to be careful. He knew that Carlos was a master of the jungle, and he was always one step ahead. Every time Indiana thought he had the upper hand, Carlos would find a way to outmaneuver him. As Indiana made his way through the jungle, he was met with a series of cunning traps. Carlos had set them, and Indiana had to be on his guard. He leapt over tripwires, ducked under swinging logs, and weaved his way through a maze of sharp stakes. With each trap he passed, he grew more determined. He wasn't going to let Carlos get the best of him, but Carlos wasn't about to give up. He was a master of the jungle, and he knew every trick in the book. He was always one step ahead, and he was determined to reach the temple first. He followed Indiana, pushing his way through the jungle, always just out of reach. The race was neck and neck, and Indiana and Carlos were both pushing themselves to their limits. The jungle was relentless, and they had to be on their guard at all times. They were both determined to be the one to reach the temple first, and they both knew that the other was a worthy opponent. As they approached the temple, the jungle grew thicker and more treacherous. They had to climb over vines, crawl under fallen trees, and wade through streams. The temple was in sight, and the finish line was within reach. But Carlos was still one step ahead. He was always one step ahead, and Indiana had to find a way to catch up. The race was intense, and Indiana and Carlos were both exhausted. But they pushed on, their eyes fixed on the prize. The temple was within reach, and the treasure was waiting for them. But only one of them would be able to claim it. The race was on, and the winner would be the one who reached the temple first. The sun beats down mercilessly as Indiana Jones and Carlos face each other in a final showdown. They've both come this far, each one determined to be the one to claim the treasure. The temple lies before them, waiting to be explored and its secrets uncovered. "I've come this far, Jones," Carlos snarls, his eyes narrowed in determination. "I'm not going to let you get in my way now." Indiana merely smirks, his hand resting on the hilt of his trusty whip. "I've faced tougher odds than you, Carlos. You're not going to get your hands on this treasure." The two men stand there for a moment, sizing each other up. Then, without a word, they both dart into the temple, each one determined to be the first to reach the treasure. The temple is a labyrinth of death traps, ancient puzzles, and dangerous creatures. Indiana and Carlos must navigate through the obstacles to reach the treasure, their hearts pounding with excitement and fear. The first obstacle they face is a series of deadly traps, each one designed to keep intruders out. Indiana uses his quick thinking and his knowledge of ancient civilizations to get past the traps, while Carlos uses his cunning to find a way around them. Next, they come to a series of ancient puzzles, each one more difficult than the last. Indiana uses his knowledge of history and his love of a good challenge to solve the puzzles, while Carlos uses brute force to get through them. Finally, they reach the heart of the temple, where the treasure is guarded by a powerful and deadly creature. Carlos is the first to reach it, but Indiana is not far behind. They both draw their weapons, ready for the final showdown. The creature lunges at them, its sharp claws glinting in the light. Carlos and Indiana dodge and weave, each one determined to be the one to claim the treasure. Finally, with a mighty roar, the creature falls to the ground, defeated. The treasure lies before them, waiting to be claimed. Carlos and Indiana face off one final time, their eyes locked in a fierce stare. They both know the true value of the treasure, and they're both willing to risk everything to get it. In the end, only one of them will claim the treasure. The temple is filled with echoes of their footsteps as they face off, their weapons at the ready. The world holds its breath, waiting to see who will emerge victorious. The temple was silent, save for the sound of Indiana and Carlos' footsteps as they made their way deeper into the heart of the temple. They had finally arrived at the source of the rumors, the fabled treasure that had been the driving force behind their journey. It was said to be a collection of ancient artifacts, gold and jewels beyond imagination, and both men were determined to claim it for themselves. The treasure was guarded by a series of traps and puzzles, designed to keep out anyone who was not worthy. The walls were lined with deadly spikes, and the floor was littered with pressure plates that triggered hidden traps. Indiana and Carlos were forced to work together, relying on their combined skills and experience to navigate through the challenges. As they progressed, the challenges grew more difficult. They encountered puzzles that required intricate knowledge of ancient civilizations, and Indiana was able to use his expertise to solve them. Carlos, on the other hand, was more physically gifted, using his strength and agility to find a way through the traps. But the closer they got to the treasure, the more dangerous the challenges became. They encountered booby traps that threatened to blow them to pieces, and ancient creatures that lurked in the shadows, waiting to pounce. The tension was palpable as they made their way through the temple, each step bringing them closer to the treasure. Finally, they reached the heart of the temple, and there it was, the fabled treasure. The room was filled with gold and jewels, ancient artifacts and relics that were worth a fortune. Indiana and Carlos were both stunned by the sight, unable to believe that they had actually found it. But their moment of awe was short-lived. The two men faced each other, both realizing that only one of them could claim the treasure. They had come this far, risking their lives and facing countless challenges, and neither was willing to back down now. The final showdown was intense, as Indiana and Carlos battled for control of the treasure. They fought with all their might, using every skill and technique they had learned along the way. In the end, it was Indiana who emerged victorious, taking possession of the treasure. Carlos was left to ponder what might have been, as he watched Indiana disappear into the jungle, the treasure in hand. He had come so close, only to be denied in the end. But he knew that there would always be another adventure, another chance to claim the treasure. The temple remained, its secrets still waiting to be uncovered, and the world was a big place, full of adventures and treasures waiting to be discovered. For Indiana, the journey had come to an end, but he knew that there would always be another adventure waiting just around the corner. Indiana Jones returned home, his heart full of the thrill of adventure. He clutched the ancient treasure close to his chest, savoring the weight of it and the knowledge that he had accomplished something truly great. The journey had been long and treacherous, but it was worth it all. As he walked through the streets of his home city, he was greeted with cheers and applause. People had heard of his latest adventure, and they were eager to hear all about it. They wanted to know about the temple, the treasure, and the dangers he had faced. They wanted to know what it was like to be Indiana Jones. Indiana smiled, basking in the adoration of his fans. He was proud of what he had accomplished, and he was happy to share his story. But at the same time, he was already looking forward to his next adventure. There was still so much left to discover, and he was eager to get started. Carlos, on the other hand, was left to wonder what might have been. He watched as Indiana disappeared into the distance, the treasure in hand. He had come so close, but in the end, it had slipped through his fingers. He was a treasure hunter, and he was always on the hunt for his next big score. The temple and its secrets remained lost, waiting for the next adventurer to discover them. The world was a big place, and there was always a new adventure waiting just around the corner. Indiana knew that he would always be an adventurer at heart, and that he would never be satisfied until he had discovered every last treasure and explored every last corner of the world. The adventure was over, but the thrill of discovery would always be with him. Indiana Jones, the greatest adventurer of all time, was ready for whatever lay ahead.